Well, friends, welcome to another Word of Gord. I've been walking around the room here trying to get a fix on the psychic state of David Bowie, having just passed in the last, I don't know, couple of days. The announcement was this morning or maybe last night. I caught it on the 7 o'clock news as I was driving to work. And I've been communing with others on Facebook, sharing favorite images and memories and songs, like many of you, I suspect. I see him in a bright place, a very bright, sparkly place. It doesn't seem to be a consensus reality of the astral plane, as some folks often wind up in. They wind up in the astral plane version of the country and culture and sometimes religion of which they are or to which they are attached. Astral plane New York, astral plane Vermont, astral plane Thailand. Can be any number of places that people wind up depending on their doubts, fears, aspirations, expectations, self-criticism, egomania. Any number of issues, personality issues and spiritual issues can influence where a person goes when they leave the body. He does seem to be in a very bright place, as I say, and he's marveling at what's around him, or what appears to be around him. As I try to get his attention, he seems to sort of float by me in wonderment, in great wonderment and dizzying pleasure at what he's perceiving. It's almost like a formless energy plane, which for most people is something they attain or find after a great amount of time in the astral plane, or the various planes, starting with the astral and moving on up. But he seems to be in one right now. And how he got there, I'm not quite sure. Perhaps he'd been doing some reading on esoteric matters. It's plain from some of the interviews and songs that he wrote over the years that he was open to that sort of thing and may have indeed studied it. A lot of his songs spoke of other realities, and we marveled at them on their release, and we still marvel at them now. Aside from the sheer genius level of musical invention, which often seem to accompany his recordings. I'm still trying to get his attention. He's I think he's experimenting with his light body. I don't think if he even knew he had one, but he's sort of floating in and out of a sort of a, well, I don't want to say stereotypical or even conventional David Bowie image, because I mean, what is a conventional David Bowie image? He changed so often. I mean, he would sort of slow down for interviews and photo sessions and whatnot, but of all the rock stars of his generation, he was perhaps the most fond of changing image and changing projection. I think for the benefit of society, not really for his benefit. But that could be argued, and probably will be. The Aladdin Sane image, the thin white Duke image, the The cross-dressing image on the cover of The Man Who Sold the World. Wonderful bit of cultural anarchism there, especially in 1972, and what sort of thing wasn't quite so trendy as it is now. Okay, light body. Yeah, he's sort of yeah, sort of a light body with all kinds of starry sparkles around it, flashing, you know, almost like a CGI image in a movie. Not quite animated, but computer generated. Maybe his brain is a bit of a computer at this point, or his consciousness. And it's certainly a different space as the one very artistically represented in the video for Black Star, which I just watched a while ago. I'd heard the music, but hadn't seen the imagery with all that crucifixion imagery and that sort of dark lower astral sort of imagery. But I did notice that at one point in the middle of it, when he's singing, he does this. As if to cock a hoot at the seriousness of it all, or the seeming seriousness of it all. And I mean, when I grew up in Britain, just a few years behind David, that was the sort of thing that you would do to your school chums, as if to say, well, screw you. It was a mocking thing to do. I don't know what it would be like for Americans, Europeans, but that's what it was in Britain. I can assure you, I was there. I'm only 6 years younger than he is. So the master of contradiction, amongst other things. And I'm not getting much desire to communicate verbally from him. It's very joyous, very bouncing around, float, like a sparkly, cloudy light body that's floating around, examining what's around it. And I'm not sure what is around it because I'm only seeing the light body, and I'm not seeing it that clearly. And then he moves into a sort of a slightly more conventional David Bowie image that we're all familiar with from the variety of stages that he inhabited as time went on. And of course, I might be seeing. I can't tell if he's projecting stuff or if I'm projecting it to some point, because we're in a space where there is no landscape, no buildings, no consensus reality communities, as I've often pointed out in these other spirit contacts. People very often inhabit those, and their favorite town, village, city, remote cottage in the woods. He's not in any of those, although he might be later. He's very joyously bouncing about, and obviously enjoying his private imagery, which he's not sharing very much of it with me, even when I close my eyes. Okay, let me try and... When I said to him, or telepath to him, David, I'm sharing this with the world, or I will be, he said, well, he laughed and said, well, so am I. Oh my goodness. This is the strangest spirit contact I've had in perhaps ever. A message, if it is a message, he's sharing joy and bliss and transcendence of form. It's my latest bit of theater, he said, which I find interesting because I just read in the New Yorker there's a play derived from some of his work on stage in New York right now. I'm not sure if it's the Ziggy Stardust story or something else. I can't quite remember. And I, mm, it is, yes, it's just, oh, I hate to be the communicator of his latest theatre piece. I seem very inadequate to the task to me. But I hope you get the general gist of his joyous spiritual playground that he seems to be manifesting at this very moment. There's nothing about God bless you all or, have a good day or any of that stuff. And no, none of this, don't worry about me or none of that. He's like a kid that's had too much ice cream, I think. You know how they get giddy and silly and jumping around till they hurt themselves? Although he's not in a place where he can hurt himself. Okay, what am I getting? Come back again when I've calmed down. Okay, Mr. Bowie, that's what I'll do. I'll come back again when you've calmed down. God knows when that'll be. Anyway, spirit contact with David Bowie, such as it is, and I apologize if it's not up to your expectations. It's certainly not up to mine, although I don't think I had any to begin with. I just watched some videos on YouTube and got a little weepy, and thought of all the great cultural contributions he's made over the decades, and inspiring other artists to do the same. And God bless him for all of that. And God bless you for tolerating this rather odd spirit contact. And I will hopefully do another later on. Goodbye to you all. For now.